to introduce you to the biosphere.
The biosphere acknowledges the Bunurong peoples of the Kulin Nation as the traditional owners of the land on which we live and work. First Nations people are the original caretakers of the land and waterways and hold the truth, the stories, and the knowledge necessary for creating a sustainable future. We would like to pay our respect to elders past, present, and emerging, and particularly extend that respect to any First Nation peoples who are joining us today. Sovereignty was never ceded, always was, always will be Aboriginal land.
Western Port is an incredibly unique area about 75 kilometers southeast of Melbourne, containing the Mornington Peninsula, 2 large islands, French Island and Phillip Island, and a large tidal bay. The region is renowned internationally for its rich diversity of flora and fauna and for its many conservation-listed species. 2/3 of Victorian bird species are found within the bay, including 43 migratory bird species which are protected under international treaties. Its high diversity stems from its very unusual combination of unique habitat types, including mangroves, salt marshes, seagrass meadows, mudflats, and rocky coasts, all existing in close proximity to one another and linked together by natural tidal flows that circulate nutrients throughout the ecosystem. This diversity in habitats and in species gains the site international recognition as a significant wetland under the 1971 United Nations Ramsar Convention on Wetlands. The Ramsar Convention governs the conservation and the wise use of wetlands of international importance. It requires at least one of 9 criteria for significance be met for a wetland to be recognized. Western Port meets 7 of these. For example, Western Port is home to 18 threatened, endangered, or critically endangered species, including the critically endangered orange-bellied parrot, one of Australia's most endangered birds. One of only 3 migratory parrot species in the world, these birds rely on the salt marsh vegetation as overwintering habitat. Other threatened species calling Western Port home include the threatened Australian grayling, the endangered southern brown bandicoot, and the endangered fringe spider orchid. Western Port also supports dozens of different plants and animal species at critical stages of their life cycles, such as during migration, breeding, and early life, another Ramsar criteria. For example, the tidal bay serves as a winter home for migrating endangered southern right whales, while the salt marshes, mudflats, and rocky shores provide migratory retreats for birds traveling from regions as distant as Siberia, like the tiny red-necked stint. Western Port's unassuming mudflats are considered to be one of the 3 most important sites for migratory birds in Victoria. The rocky coasts support the largest Australian fur seal breeding colony in Australia, major rookeries of the little penguin, and the only Western Victorian breeding site for lifelong bonded pairs of white-bellied sea eagles. Sheltered tide pools and quiet lush meadows of seagrass act as safe nursery sites for young fish and for small marine creatures. Western Port is not just important to finned and feathered species, it has a long history of importance to humans. For at least 18,000 years before Europeans ever laid eyes on the bay, Western Port was populated by the Bunurong peoples of the Kulin Nation, in particular the Mayon Bullock clan, the Yaluk Bullock clan, and the Burinyong Bullock clan. The Bunurong peoples have deep spiritual connections with the land and sea, and the area hosts many significant meeting spots, women's and men's spots, and initiation sites. Care for the environment by the Bunurong peoples ensured the persistence of key food species such as the blackfish, which were the likely namesake of the Kuwirup swamp. Western Port's distinct biodiversity is a homage to the thousands of years of nurturing thought put into the cultivation of the region. Since European occupation, human populations have grown dramatically, and the Western Port ecosystem has been put under considerable pressure as a result of increasing development. The fertile soils surrounding the bay supported the growth of a profitable agricultural industry, and today the region is a major food bowl for the greater Melbourne area, providing vegetables, beef, lamb, chicken, dairy, and fruit. The bay also attracted heavy industry, with the port of Hastings serving as an important link to trade routes. Some of these industries remain today, such as steel mills and a gas fractionation plant, and some do not, such as oil refineries. Urban areas grew rapidly through the 20th century, and urban growth of the Western Port region was the fastest of anywhere in Victoria in the late 90s. It accounted for 43% of residential growth across Melbourne. Along with this increasing urban, agricultural, and industrial development has come widespread vegetation clearing and habitat destruction. This has not just represented an environmental loss, but also a cultural loss, with the loss of sites precious to the Bunurong peoples, such as the now drained Kuwirup Swamp. Today, Western Port's unique value is increasingly widely recognized, but many challenges still face the long-term survival of its fragile habitats. Commercial fishing was phased out in 2009, but with increasing populations and tourist activity, overfishing still poses a threat to food chains, and the ever-growing human populations continue to encroach on natural habitats. Moreover, rising sea levels and temperatures, ocean acidification, and altered weather patterns as a result of changing climates all threaten the delicate balance of habitats within the Western Port ecosystem. There are many reasons that the loss of Western Port's unique habitats would be a blow to humans and nature alike. As much as Western Port is important in an environmental sense, its natural habitats still support our human societies, as they have for thousands of years. Agricultural industries continue to rely on healthy soils and water cycles, and visitors continue to be delighted by its natural wonders, like the Phillip Island Penguin Parade and the iconic beaches frequented by visitors in the summer. Protecting Western Port's ecosystems is therefore just as important to us as it is to the fishes, seals, and birds. So how do we go about balancing the protection of Western Port's natural habitats with the livelihoods of the people that call this place home? In 2003, the local communities in Western Port embarked on a journey to build a stronger partnership between man and nature through the creation of the internationally recognized Western Port Biosphere. The biosphere plays an important role in planning for a sustainable environment while protecting the livelihoods and economy that depend on Western Port's industry. So what exactly is a biosphere? Biospheres are part of UNESCO's Man and the Biosphere program, and the Western Port Biosphere is one of 4 UNESCO biospheres in Australia. The Biosphere program aims to conserve biodiversity while at the same time supporting people to live and work as sustainably as possible within their environment. UNESCO, the science branch of the United Nations, established the Biosphere program in the 1960s as a way to deal with human-environmental interactions. It was born from UNESCO's collaborations with international non-governmental organizations after recognizing the need for a program that could focus on regions where traditional human exclusion-style conservation was not feasible. The program would create a global community of sites called biospheres, which would serve as test places for creating innovative local solutions to global problems of balancing human and environmental needs. These test places are very different from a national park or a conservation reserve, where human activities are highly restricted. In fact, these biospheres have entire communities of humans living inside of them. There are currently 714 UNESCO biospheres across 129 countries, with over 250 million people living inside their boundaries. Thus, the primary function of a biosphere cannot stop at just the conservation of species. It must also foster sustainable economic and human development, and must provide scientific and technical support to promote education, training, and research. This is what makes the biosphere model so unique. It recognizes that within our homes there can be a patchwork of human and environmental priorities which can still find balance. The Mornington Peninsula and Western Port Biosphere Foundation was designated by UNESCO in 2002 and held its first meeting in 2003. Trading as the Western Port Biosphere, its boundary takes in all of Mornington Peninsula Shire, plus parts of 4 other local government areas, including the shires of Bass Coast and Cardinia Shire, and the cities of Casey and Frankston. Today, the Foundation is governed by an independent skills-based board with positions reserved for a representative of Western Port's traditional owners and a nominee representing the 5 councils. The board is supported by several committees and a small team of part-time staff. Under an MOU, the 5 local councils provide funding that contributes to the foundation's operational costs. Project-specific and core funding is also sought and gratefully received from other sources, including state and federal governments, philanthropic groups, and sponsors. The Biosphere is subject to periodic reviews with UNESCO to demonstrate continuing benefits to both the environment and to a sustainable economy through projects that build win-wins between humans and nature. To undertake these projects, the Biosphere assembles diverse teams of partners, representing environmental, social, and economic interests, who together build a shared vision for a healthy and thriving home. Some of the Biosphere's partners include the Port Phillip Western Port Catchment Management Authority, the Willam Moraine Aboriginal Association, Parks Victoria, Melbourne Water, local schools, and local businesses such as farms and campgrounds. The Biosphere's goal is to create win-wins between environmental, social, and economic goals, and it undertakes a range of projects that can deliver simultaneous improvements for natural spaces as well as local business and community. 3 examples of Biosphere projects building such win-wins are the Water Stewardship Program, the Biodiversity in Schools Program, and the Protecting Ramsar Values Program. The Water Stewardship Program is all about working with individual water users to create a united program to address water quality issues present within the broader environment. The program fosters collaboration between many stakeholders, such as the community, water agencies, and industries. There are a vast range of industries that have adopted the program, including chicken processors, horticultural farms, plant nurseries, livestock producers, schools, campsites, golf courses, steel makers, and more. The program facilitates responsible water management practices, such as increasing reuse of water on site, eliminating the release of excess nutrients into waterways, revegetating riparian areas, and reducing erosion damage. The benefits of these actions are not just restricted to the environment. Healthier catchments contribute to improved water quality and future water supplies for the community, and improvements in water use efficiency provides financial benefits to businesses by mitigating the impact of volatile water prices and reducing damage to soils caused by erosion. One of our greatest tools for encouraging care and conservation of our habitats is education. Over the last 3 years, the Biosphere Reserve Foundation has been bringing to light the incredible Western Port Bay to schools in the region through a fun and interactive program that teaches students about the ecology and biodiversity all around them. Students learn about what it means to live in a UNESCO World Biosphere Reserve, the Ramsar Convention, and the importance of Western Port Bay for migratory shorebirds. The program also facilitates species monitoring projects on school grounds through camera tracking, catching everything from foxes to brown bandicoots on film. Western Port is listed under the United Nations Ramsar Convention as a wetland of international importance. As previously mentioned, this means that Western Port is one of 12 Victorian wetlands recognized as biodiversity hotspots. The Ramsar Values Project helps educate the community about the significance of Western Port. Notably, that Western Port supports an abundant and diverse range of aquatic species and water birds that may be endangered, threatened, or experiencing a critical life stage. Balancing the Ramsar values with the needs of the community is a key challenge. Recreational fishers are the single largest users of the bay. The Victorian Fisheries Authority sets catch limits based on scientific advice, but there has generally been limited engagement with the fishing community to understand their point of view. Thus, the Protecting Ramsar Values Project aims to bridge that gap by working with the local community to provide education and incentives that promote best practices, like observing catch limits, avoiding bait pumping, going slow near roosting and feeding birds, taking care not to damage reefs when anchoring, and checking, cleaning, and drying your boat to prevent the spread of marine pests. When done mindfully, recreational fishing doesn't need to come at a cost to the environment, maintaining both a healthy environment and a happy community. Western Port Biosphere is just as passionate about our community as it is our environment. We would love to hear your stories, your passions, and your ideas. There are plenty of ways to engage with our biosphere, We are always looking for volunteers to help with our projects. You can help us build our photo libraries to share the beauty of our region, or you can log records of Western Port's diverse species through our iNaturalist project. We are always looking for businesses and landholders to join the Water Stewardship Program for support in making water-related improvements to your property. And we are always looking for schools to join our biodiversity program to enrich curriculums with local knowledge and care. We have a Facebook page and a website, and you can contact us at info@biosphere.org.au. We can't wait to work together with you for the benefit of our diverse communities and our beautiful, unique environment.
Well, I thank specifically Aaliyah Pirtle for the fantastic work there with the video, and obviously the contribution from Amy, Katerina, and I now would like to just introduce Katerina, and she's going to now talk about her short period of time with the Biosphere under her internship. I'll hand over to you.
Hi, so I'm just going to talk about my little experience of getting involved with the Biosphere to give anyone a bit of an insight of how it's really beneficial. I started as an intern for the foundation around mid-year this year, and I didn't really know what to expect. I just knew I had to complete 200 hours of experience as part of my university degree. But luckily enough, I've gained so much more than just credit for my studies. Firstly, I've learned so much more about my local environment. I live on the Mornington Peninsula, and to be honest, I think I took the Western Port area for granted. I didn't realise how important it was for biodiversity and how internationally significant it was. It doesn't look like the most beautiful thing in the world when you don't know much about it. And so I was really lucky to be able to speak to the Biosphere team, who know so much about the environment and the water and riparian vegetation and all the species and water birds. And now I feel really familiar with my environment. Secondly, I had so much exposure to the environmental professional sphere. I was able to communicate with people from Melbourne Water, Parks Victoria, our Catchment Management Authority, and I was able, on behalf of the Biosphere, to attend seminars and speak to the local community. I also learnt of many practical aspects to running projects, such as obstacles to do with land tenures, and I also was able to do some writing and contribute to a newsletter and contribute to developing a page for the website. And these are all such important skills that you don't get taught about when you study an environmental degree at uni. So I've realised how important this experience has been. And overall, I would say overwhelmingly, I've gained a lot of confidence, and the team at the Biosphere has a lot to do with that. Even just being involved in team meetings with a small group of people, everyone's really interested in what you have to say, and I know that's an uncommon experience in many people's first tastes of a job, so I was really lucky there. And funnily enough, after having this experience, I was offered my first ever job interview for an environmental role at a local council. And I think that without the experience I had here, I wouldn't have been able to get that interview. And I also wouldn't be able to answer half the questions they asked me in the interview. So yeah, it's a really good idea if you're interested in getting into the environmental professional sphere to get involved. And yeah, I couldn't recommend this experience more highly, especially in these times where it's quite hard to get jobs. but I do think that my experience at the foundation has been this amazing gateway into a lot of professional options. And as a not-for-profit, the Biosphere always has a range of programs and projects in the pipeline, and they could always do with help in following up a lot of things depending on your interests. So yeah, I couldn't recommend highly enough sending an email. And now I'll hand it back to Glenn for some questions.
Thanks, Kat. That was great. It's good to hear your experiences, and as you say, we always would like to see people come on board, and Jamie's just started with us too for the next 2 weeks. So that very much ends our presentation for today, and we can open up for questions, and we will probably end the video pretty soon, Kat. So if you want to stop.